Dame Margaret Baisley and Bill Bayfield for Environment Canterbury Regional Council.
Thank you, Mayor Leanne and councillors, for the opportunity to make a submission on your consultation document and draft long-term plan. Environment Canterbury would like to particularly thank you for your ongoing governance and support in the Canterbury water management strategy, and in particular your support for the Christchurch, West Melton and Banks Peninsula and Selwyn Waihora zone committees. We would like to see more references in your plan to the Christchurch, West Melton, Banks Peninsula and Selwyn Waihora zone committees as a key mechanism for community input to water issues. Many aspects of the long-term plan will contribute to the CWMS vision, and your proposals for continuous improvement to the wastewater and stormwater networks through ongoing repairs and renewals will help reduce wastewater discharges to the environment. We're particularly interested in the work that you've planned to reduce wet weather overflows of wastewater to decommission the Littleton, Diamond Harbour and Governor's Bay wastewater treatment plant. This is something we've had an interest in as long as we've been here. And also the replacement of the Akaroa wastewater treatment plant and installation of a new harbour outfall. So we strongly support those projects. And we also note on page 58 your reference to improving the health of the Avon and Heathcote rivers. And again, through the Christchurch West Melton Zone implementation program, the community has already expressed a clear view on the targets and priorities for dealing with stormwater in these two catchments. And so we recommend that the ZIP is referenced strongly in your long-term plan. I'd also like to refer to the building a sustainable transport system. We support your commitment to the hubs and spokes public transport model. We also support the council's proposal to spend $35.9 million on public transport infrastructure over the next 10 years. And we support your proposals for dealing with transport growth, and particularly in support of the earthquake recovery. And you're aware of the key infrastructure improvements which we must deliver to support the new services, and in particular for the earthquake recovery and future growth. I also would like to acknowledge the support and resources provided by your council to the Mayoral Forum's review of public transport governance with the other councils of Greater Christchurch, New Zealand Transport Authority and the Ministry of Transport. This review and the ongoing support of the council to identify the short and long-term solutions to the issues faced are critical to a well-performing public transport system. And we thank you also for your support to the Greater Christchurch Public Transport Working Group. And in earthquake recovery, we recognise the significant challenges your council faces in this area. We ask particularly for your support to work in partnership to implement and monitor and review the LERP. We acknowledge there's an overlap between that review and the Christchurch Replacement District Plan processes, but we've both been required to have these expedited by ministerial direction, so we need to work together to minimise duplication where possible. And similarly with the Littleton Port Recovery Plan, that it's important we continue to work together. And finally, I'd just like to touch on the flood management. I see that you're addressing the increased flood risk following the earthquakes. And, while we operate on under different pieces of legislation, we have a number of staff working in flood management, and we offer their significant expertise to assist with and review your program. And we request that we be involved as soon as possible in the process of developing plans for stop bank provision. And we were surprised that the council had proceeded to a pre-feasibility study for a tidal barrier with only minimal engagement with us and our river scientists.
Not as much as we were.
And just to conclude, as you can see, there are many areas that we work together on many joint initiatives, and our collaboration is vital to the smooth running of our community. And I'd just like to acknowledge the very positive relationships that we have developed with you and your staff. And I was thinking, I think about the 5th time I've been in to appear before a council, and I thought I actually know all the councillors. And that's the first time that that's happened. So that indicates that we're actually seeing a lot more of you. So we thank you for your relationship and collaboration with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Dame Margaret, could I pick up on the natural hazards component of your submission? Because obviously if there are opportunities for us to work together in a strategic way, then this would be an area. I have a very strong view and have written to the government about the need for a national policy statement or a national environmental standard in relation to our natural hazards, particularly in relation to sea level rise, because it seems to me that the sea level is going to rise around the country, around our coastline, in the same, to the same level. So the standards should be set nationally, in my view. So this is what I'm worried about, and I'm just kind of asking for some guidance, because we're going to go out and talk to a community that's already under enormous stress over district plan changes, long-term plan changes that we're here to discuss today. And now we're going to go out and talk to them about the nature of the pressures that might come on their environment in the next 50 to 200 years. And I worry if it's just too much at once to be placing on the most vulnerable communities, not just environmentally, but actually in terms of the earthquake damage, which has, as we know, mirrored the effects of 50 years predictions on sea level rise in some parts of our coastline, and actually 200 years in some parts of our coastline.
We'd certainly support you and be happy to go with you to government for a national standard, and we'd also be happy to work with you to determine a suitable time when we can start community engagement.
And we've discussed this previously, Your Worship, and certainly we would continue to support that. In fact, all regional councils in New Zealand are supporting the government to come out and give people certainty as to what to plan for. And I think there's a huge saving in litigation and heartache here if we can be brave enough to simply say that for the next 100 years we think this is the figure and this is the figure we should work to. I could also note, if I might, Madam Chair, that the issue that's raised in the bottom paragraph of natural hazards, where we were bringing together our two work streams, has actually occurred in the time that this submission was put in, and we're now Christchurch City's natural hazard program and the rest of the region's natural hazard program is now joined at the hip.
Great. It's just that I am worried about the timetable for commencing that public engagement, which is not far off. And we're receiving our briefing on it, I think, next Monday. And I think the planned approach is the following Tuesday, which is straight after Queen's birthday weekend. And I just think that with all of this, the long-term plan and the district plan review and all of these things happening at once, because at the end of June we'll be notifying the final elements of the natural hazards chapter to the DPR, the Independent Hearings Panel. So that will be in the public arena at the same time. And I just, do you think that this is an appropriate approach, or do you think we should just hold back until after the natural hazards chapter is dealt with? I mean, are we going to lose anything by delaying this for a few more months while we try and see if we can get that locked down?
I think we'd be happy to talk to you about that, how we can manage that.
Yep, that'd be great. Yanni.
So thank you for your submission. Just a very quick clarification on page 98 of our agenda, which you talk about environmental education. You've asked that we reinstate 30,000 of funding, and that the 31 schools have had their facilitation withdrawn. If we were to consider reinstating that funding, are you currently contributing or planning to contribute to Enviro schools for the schools within Christchurch? And if so, what's your quantum?
Through you, Madam Chair, if I can answer that, we already provide funding for Enviro schools in partnership with some district councils throughout the region, and where there is no district council, we stand alone with Enviro schools. But the loss of you guys in the Christchurch City makes a big difference to those individual schools, and it's a real message out to the youth of today, the young kids of today, to get that message. Very important for us. If you can find within your incredibly challenging budgets the ability to come back in with us, we believe that in 5 to 10 years, neither of us will regret it.
Phil?
I'll be brief. Thank you very much, Dame Margaret, for your complimentary comments too about a council. And also, though, I just want to, around the area of air quality, I just wanted to raise that one because, I think when we made our submission, we could have perhaps been more specific about some odour issues. And although we have got it's the Waste Environment and Management Planning team, which works together with ECAN, I'm just wondering about some of the specific issues we have and how, in fact, for example, an ongoing one has been Bupa down in Rose Street, and there's the other one out at Bromley. So it's just how, in fact, we ensure that we try and resolve some of those issues collaboratively too.
Yeah, well, I'd certainly acknowledge the work that is going on. I was talking to David Bedford last night, who'd just come back from a Living Earth meeting, and we're certainly kept appraised of the various areas that are affected, and I think we do slowly move forward in them, even though it may not be apparent to the immediate neighbours. And I think we've just got to keep on working together, and because this hasn't always happened, and it is happening now, and I think that's the way to succeed. And certainly acknowledge the work that you're doing in that area.
Thank you. We're going to have some combined discussions further with David.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and much appreciated. Very helpful contribution to our discussions. So thank you very much, and we will adjourn now for afternoon tea. We're running behind schedule, so there are a number of submitters. The next group of submitters are all submitting on the same subject, the Wainui Wastewater Reticulation and Treatment Scheme Stage 2. And it is, I don't know whether, I mean, everyone's welcome to join us for afternoon tea, but if people can think about whether they want to have their 5 minutes on their own, or whether they want to all sit at the end and all present and then give a bit of a time for questions, that might give a bit more flow, but it's really over to the submitters. What's appropriate under the circumstances, and so it's 3:37. So if we could be back here at 3:50. Thank you.